Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Board Game BBQ episode 364, brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and of course, our incredible Patreons. You've got Conor here again, and I'm joined by my fellow Sydney-sider who has been incredibly busy as of late in Jules. Jules, you've been so busy, like you haven't had time to wash your hair. What's the go?
Yeah, man, it's just been a hectic schedule. I don't know what I'm going. I'll have to shave it off. I just don't know what to do at this point.
It's just not, you don't have the time to manage it anymore. Like it's
No.
so the next time. No, what would be weird is I don't think I've ever seen you without a beard.
Yeah, I've had it ever since I lived in Canberra. So yeah.
I thought you were going to say I've had it ever since I popped out of the womb.
No, but I was one of those people in year 7 that had to get a razor.
Were you? Yeah, we've got there's a few of those kids. I feel for them because they're like, they're not intentionally trying to grow a mustache, but they've got to shave it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some of the staff are trying to grow mustaches and they can't, and it's quite hilarious, especially around November time. But very good. But we are not here to talk about our levels of facial hair when we were prepubescent. We're here to talk about board games. And I don't know. I think you've played this one. I wanted to talk about Cyclades, Jules. Have you played Cyclades?
I've actually not played it.
I can't believe you have not played this game. This is like
so up my wheelhouse.
It's like almost. I was playing. I was like, this is the most incredibly Jules-esque game ever. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of like Cyclades, Kemet, and I think Inish. They kind of all in the they're like the Madigo trio, right? So that's kind of why. And I was like, I felt like I know there was a third, and it's like, okay, so you've got the Cyclades, which is Greek. Greek mythology. You've got Kemet, which is Egyptian mythology. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure Inish is the last one. That's the Celtic mythology or the Gaelic mythology. So, what do you know about this game, aside from that you get to womp people?
That's pretty much it. It's just a big womp fest.
Yeah, it is just like one massive womp fest. But it's really cool. So what you do in this game, and I think it probably would deserve a bit more of a sizzle, but I've only played it once. So my experience of it probably isn't representative of the full, I guess, of the full game.
Yeah.
But what's probably the main point of difference about this is, in regular like dudes on a map, area control based games, how whether it's Root, whether it's, some of the more militaristic games, you can always take particular actions. It's up to you on a turn based on your economy and your action economy, which actions you take. In Cyclades, you have to do the action that you win via auction. And yes, so each of the different gods that you can, I guess, vow to or tribute to, they will provide you with a different action. So, for example, like Ares, this one kind of makes the most sense. Ares is you get to, on your turn, after you win the bid, you always get to build a stronghold, which adds 1 to your attack. You then get to place a soldier out into a region that you control, and then you can move. So in the original one, and Manny was explaining this to me, so we played a 5-player game. It was crazy. It was so good. But it also didn't feel super long because of this auction mechanic. So certain gods will let you take particular actions. So like I said with Ares, it's placing the dude on the map, then moving troops. So Ares is the only god that lets you move all troops. However, they kind of changed things around a bit where they introduced heroes, and all gods, I believe, or could be wrong, all gods will let you move troops that contain a hero. So I think in the original, Manny was explaining there was a bit of a choke with a bit of a choke with players only being able to move with Ares. However, in this game you can move with all the gods. So sort of get a bit off track, but what's happening is that you, at the start of your turn, you bid on which god, and you can get bumped from that track too. So if you bid too low, someone can bump you. And what was happening to me is that I would get bumped, and then all the other gods were extremely high priced. Now, the one that's always available is Apollo, and Apollo gets you a little bit of money, lets you increase your economy a little bit, but it's kind of underwhelming. But that's the whole point. And someone always has to take Apollo because you can only win one bid. So there's this really interesting auction mechanic that also underpins the action and the strategy behind it. And while some people might think, this might bog down the game a little bit, because you can only take particular actions with a particular god, part of that decision space has already been made for you, and you can kind of look and start to predict what people are doing based on what god that they've chosen to devote to. So, for example, it's like if I win Hera, unless I have a hero, they know that I can't move and attack, right? But Hera allows you to purchase a hero. Zeus lets you buy monsters for cheaper. So it might be a case of, I'm going to buy a monster for cheap, and so on and so forth. So it's not as if, you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And all of the actions, all of the extra actions that you take when you win a god, they cost you coins. So you're still beholden to how much currency you have, and then, how much you can do based on that. So each god has an action and then some bonus actions that will cost you coins. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was a 5-player game, so the map was incredibly tight. Mm-hmm. We had a whole heap of different strategies, from people turtling to people stretching out the map. The win condition is that you have to have 3 of these metropolis. Whatever the plural is for metropolis, it might be metropolis, it might be metropoli, it might be metropolises, I'm not sure. But there are different ways to get these. So it's not as if the win condition is wipe all your opponents out or get a certain number of victory points. Everyone has the same goal. It's just that there's different ways to get it. So it might be by taking one over. If you build the 4 types of buildings that are available, then you automatically build one, and it represents all of those 4 buildings. You can also sacrifice these philosophers, or no, you discard these philosophers. And then you get to build a metropolis. So there's that way of doing it. Some heroes will let you sacrifice them if you fit in certain bits, if you do certain like subquests. So it's really quite cool. It's really a lot of fun. For a dudes on a map game, I think it was different enough that even if you had other ones, let's say, for example, like Blood Rage or any of that, those Eric Lang type games, it's vastly different from them, with a really interesting auction mechanic. So, like I said, I think this is a game that you would have to play and you would love.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it. And look, I love Inish. That's no secret. So I can imagine, Cyclades, I've heard a lot of good things about. Kemet, I've heard okay things about. And the Egyptian theme is, I can take it or leave it. But Cyclades looks really, really cool. And especially because it had a new version.
So we played the new version. And yes, and it was Manny's copy, so it was painted and things,
beautiful
and really nice. So the monsters were painted. And, it's always that case of any game that you would, of course, you would appreciate this, but any game that's painted, you want to get it out, show it off as much as you can. And then it adds so much more to the table presence. So just having some painted monsters, it made me want to take them and play them on the table. So I thought it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
Very keen to try it.
And I would, like I said, I would love to play it again. I like 5 was great, and I'd play it at 5 again. It could also have been the company I had and the fact that we were happy slinging crap at each other at the same time, and questioning all our moves and motives. But I would also maybe like to play it at a lower player count to see how much, because I actually think you can play up to 6.
Oh wow, really?
I think, I'm pretty sure. But I think it goes to a team-based game at 6, so 3v3.
That would make sense. Yep.
So you've been playing something not as fighty, but sometimes just as nasty. So I've played this a couple of times. It's 12 Rivers.
Yeah. I played it recently where we were reached out to by the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Sydney. They're running some board game sessions, and I went along to host a night at the Museum of Contemporary Art a few weeks ago. And we had a bunch of games out on the table. It was actually really cool. There weren't too many people that came through, but it was a lot of tourists that came through. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It's a museum. There's people visiting the city for Vivid, which is a big sort of arts and cultural event in Sydney each year. And there was actually one family that were from, I want to say it's Singapore, but I could be wrong. Their English was okay, but I taught them how to play Things and Rings. And they really, really liked it. And I said, look, you should be able to find this anywhere in the world. You don't need to know the language that well. It has one object on the card, and you can always Google Translate the object. But that was really fun to teach them. But I also then taught a couple of Irish guys how to play 12 Rivers. And it was really cool talking to them. They'd played Wingspan and Ticket to Ride and a few other staples and gateway games. And so they saw this setup and were like, wow, what is this? Can you teach us this? And we had a blast playing it. And for those that haven't seen 12 Rivers, it's published by Good Games Publishing. And it was a game that was released, I believe, in Taiwan a few years ago. And it had a very small print run. And then it was picked up by Good Games Publishing and has now been made available worldwide. And what you're trying to do in the game is collect these pearls that roll down a 3-dimensional board, which represent all the rivers and end up in a lake at a town. And you're putting little markers out to block the pathways of those pearls and get first dibs on the ones that get blocked. You take them and put them in an alpaca, and then the rest continue to flow down the river. And yeah, you're right, Connor. This game can be brutal. It can be really, really mean, because you might be looking at what colors people can store on their village tiles. You might be looking at what objectives they're going for and just completely take away the options from people. But it's one of those games where unless it aligns with your objectives, doing that to just hate draft is probably not going to win you the game.
Yeah, it deducts from what you like. It's all well and good to take one, but then you're taking up a space that you might need. So it's really a bit silly sometimes.
Exactly. But yeah, it's one of those games that looks really pretty and eye-catching, but there's actually a surprising amount of depth underneath there, finding the right timing of when to put one of your action markers at the village to get more villagers to hold all the pearls that you need, timing where you put your markers on the board, because the higher up the river you go, the later you go in following rounds. So there's consequences for your choices now in future rounds, which I really actually like as a part of the game. I think it's one of the more clever pieces in the design. And it's just very, very simple, but the more I've played this game, the more strategies I didn't realize were there show themselves. People automatically start to go towards, well, the white pearls are worth 5 points and the green are worth 1, so I'm just going to get as many white pearls as I can. But if you get the right villager cards, you can get crazy amounts of points for collecting all the low tier pearls. And yeah, it's a really approachable, easy to learn game, but the more you play it, the more strategies I think appear throughout the game. So 12 Rivers is really fun. It's very pretty. It's a very good price for the game it is as well, and the presentation it puts on. I think it's like 70 Australian dollars for like a big game with a 3-dimensional board. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I am a sucker for something to do with marbles. I think it's like we played, I don't know if you played Jules, but the marble game, like it's really basic where you'd build up like this tower and you'd race marbles down it. Like it's it's not even really a game. It's just an activity that you did as a kid. And so, games like 12 Rivers or of course, Potion Explosion, like that whole kinetic puzzle of it's going to drop or whatever. Where am I going to position things? Yeah, I think it's actually, like you said, there are still a lot of strategies that are available to you. I think that the overall game is so easy to understand, and it's got that like I use this term. It's a gimmick right? The
Yep.
gimmick is the 3D board as opposed to a flat board, and then drawing the pearls out, or getting the pearls to fall in a particular area, waiting them all to fall to the bottom and scooping them up. That's a really fun strategy. I still think the best implementation of this is the simple one that's Potion Explosion. But it's also very clever, and I really enjoy games that I'm like, I would never have thought of this as a board game, or how this can be used as a board game. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, and local publisher for games, like it's cool that's on the that's available. And so did the people you were teaching enjoy it?
Yeah, they loved it. I was a little bit worried because the people hosting us at the museum came in like, hey, the evening's kind of finished, and like, oh, we're on the last round. Let us finish this round, because they wanted to see the game through, which they were fine with. But yeah, they really, really enjoyed it.
I think, especially something like that, there'd be nothing worse than be like, oh, I didn't get to see the end. Like, can you give us, 5 or 10 more minutes? And
yeah.
But just quickly on that, so the Museum of Contemporary Art is the Rocks, near the Rocks on in Sydney. Are we going to have any more of those nights coming up?
Yeah, there's another one coming up in July. I don't have the dates on hand, but you can go to their website and go to the What's On tab, and you'll be able to see when the next sort of board game night being hosted there is, and there'll be someone there from the crew to teach some games.
Yeah, so the lighter games, you can go for a bite of tea afterwards, or go for a little fizzy beverage before or afterwards too, and enjoy that on a Thursday evening. Have a celebrate Friday early. That's what I say.
That's it. It looks right across at the Opera House, so you can go for a walk around there. It's a lovely location.
Ugh, sounds terrible. No. Great. So on a previous episode, I talked about a new little gaming group that we've got going, and we played our second game of the gaming group, and that was Raising Chicago. So have you heard of this one, Jules?
I've heard of it, but I haven't played it.
Yeah, cool. So Raising Chicago it's funny. It's another auction game. So when I put both these games, it just so happens I've played them, but both auction games are both using different mechanics. And so in Raising Chicago, it's got a really cool backstory where essentially in the city of Chicago, they hadn't really worked out how to deal with the overpopulation that the city was going through, and they had a really bad sewage problem, and people were dying of cholera. Like, they lost something like 10% of the population's dying of cholera. Wow. So they're like, we need to sort out this sewage problem. Kind of gross. But they couldn't, and they didn't have the technology to be able to input a sewage system underneath the pavement, or underneath the ground of Chicago, right? They just didn't have the most powerful digging tools. So instead, what they decided to do was put everything on stilts. So they literally would raise up the buildings. So that they
I don't know how I feel about that.
Right? Okay, yeah. So they would literally raise up the buildings so they could do this. So yeah, it's all in the front of the booklet. Now, where this works and where this makes sense is what you are doing. The role that you are undertaking is you are contractors or whatever who are taking the contracts to raise up particular buildings and to put these buildings on stilts or layers, right, in order for people to live on them. Now, how this is represented is whenever you take a contract, you bid not with money, but with these tiles. And however many of these tiles you bid with, you are going to make your building that tall. Now, what I like, and the cool system is that when you're taking these contracts, so it's almost like there's two parts, right? You take the contract, you have to be able to pay for. If you can't, then you go down the poverty track. So that might be a certain number of brick, of wood, and these hydraulic jacks, which they would have used to prop up the buildings. So you've got to be able to pay for that. However, what you do is turn by turn, you get to place one of your tiles onto one of the, I guess, these are like contract spaces. And each of these contract spaces have 6 sections. And each time you cover one of the sections, you get that resource. Maybe it's 5 sections. You get that resource. But the winner of the bit, now I'll go into this a little bit more depth than I probably need to, but the winner of this section is the person with the most amount of these tiles on the action card. But also, if it's tied, the person that has the highest token in the top left. Now, the top left one, if you're going to place your token on there, rather than receiving the goods that are getting covered, you have to pay the goods in order to take that tile, but only the ones that are still showing. So if lots of people have bid on it, you can be like, you know
then
what?
There's not much to pay up.
There's not much to pay at all, if anything. And then you might have an even number or as someone else, and you get to go on that one. So the other cool part about this is that if you win a action space or a contract space, yes, you then have to pay for the contract, and you get to you get to place the new building out around Chicago. Yes, you have to do that, but you get all the resources on that card that are still showing. So it's this whole thing, and I got really lucky sometimes where people were bidding for a particular tile or a particular contract, and they neglected my one, and then I was able to culminate heaps of resources. The downside of this is that you get points for each layer of building that you get to place out on the board. So if you only win it with one tile, you then only get 1 point. If you win it with 3, you get 3 points, so on and so forth. And they're you're generally putting out at least 1 or 2 buildings every turn, depending on what your economy is like. Last part about these action cards or these contract-based cards is that they slot into a tableau and they shift across as you get more and more, and you get that resource that's on the card, just one of the resources that's depicted, as income each turn. So you're also weighing up, okay, am I lacking in these hydraulic jacks? Am I lacking in brick? Am I lacking in wood? What do I want to be able to get as income? And there's a couple of tracks too that you can move up as you place the buildings out on the board. It's this really cool mechanic of, do I want to spend my tiles? And because once you spend a tile and you win a building, you don't get them back, right?
Right.
But each turn you get 3 new ones to place down. But if you have spent all them, then that's done. Each of the tiles that you place out that you don't win with, you also get back as well. So they go back onto the board. So if we're bidding on something, you place 1 on there, I place 3. That one, because you lost, goes back onto the income section, and you get to collect that to a maximum of 5. So you're competing for these different spaces in Chicago. You're getting different bonuses when you place down buildings. You're also then trying to get a area majority for different columns of Chicago that you're going to win at the end. There's a bit of shenanigans that can occur when you place these special buildings for scoring. You can shift ownership. You can shift. You can increase the level of a building and score that building all again. All this type of stuff. I think the placing of the buildings is great and fun. The auction mechanic is fun, but the fact that you get to do them together and they both impact each other, I think is what really makes this game, and I think is what makes it fun. I would definitely play this again. It became, just that typical thing of why are you going there? Similar to what I was saying about Cyclades. It's like, why have you gone there? No, full well it's going to benefit them, but you obviously wanted to take that action in that space. So, like I said, it's probably similar to Cyclades. I need to play it another time to be able to talk about it in more depth from a strategic point of view. But fun auction mechanic where you don't lose out because you always get the resource when you put it down. You just might lose out on the building. Yeah. So it didn't really feel like a punishing auction. And if in the end you don't win any of the buildings, you're going to have way more to play with in terms of tokens for the next round. So So Raising Chicago, great game. I think it was fun. And with a strange and interesting theme, which to be honest, it didn't really come across, but I just thought it was an interesting theme as well. Before we get into our sizzles, I just want to mention another game that I've played mentioned about on the show before. And I think my adoration for Seas of Strife is quite obvious. It's been in my top 10. I really enjoy it. But now that's a trick taker. This one here is more of a card shedder, but I really enjoy it. And that's Fuji Flush. So Fuji Flush has this great mechanic of you can it's like join or beat. So you can either join in with the card that's played before and you combine. It's like by our powers combined. You can combine it, or you can beat it and knock everyone else out, because once it comes back around to you, you get to discard that card and you don't have to draw a new one. So it's this cool thing of, it's like, are we going to be a band of twos and get together and try and, if everyone joins in, then it's like we've all joined together. Are you going to join us, or are you going to put down a card that's probably going to get beaten in a turn, or are you going to put down a card that's going to beat all of them? So, it's really good. And we had a couple of fun moments where there was the tension of someone's played a 14. There's only 2 other 14s in the deck, right? And it's like there's 3 9s out. So this person either has to play the other 14 or they're not going to beat the 9s. Because, 3 9s, 27, even I can do that maths. So it's, whereas, maybe it was 3 7s. And the highest card in there the highest single card is 20. So it's like there's 3 7s and a 14. So they have to have the other 14 in order for it to beat the 7s. And it just so happened that the other player also at that time had the 14. And it's like, it was like so annoying from my point of view, because I was part of the crew with the 7s. And it really got back around to me. But they had the 14. It's just like, that's like just such great luck and such a fun little wrinkle in the game. I hadn't really played a game like this before. Like, obviously played plenty of card shedders, but I hadn't really played a game where it's like, is it semi-co-op? Is it, are you joining together? Yeah. Again, have you played this one yet?
No, actually, Fuji Flush is one I haven't tried. I'd like to, because I've heard great things about it.
Again, I think because it's got that, sort of take that-y, with it not being like random or anything else. Yeah. But that I guess take that, or like you would find great joy in joining in or like canning someone else. And I've talked about as well. Like, I think I've talked about it in a couple of episodes. It might have been the previous one, how we make the noises whenever we get someone, and we just absolute children. So you just make it as fun as you want. And again, with the right group of people. But a couple of games for the first part of the episode that we've talked about. And now we're going to move into the sizzles.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cork, the fastest game you'll ever play with a string and a cup. Cork from the OP Games, a chaotic fast reaction dice game where every round comes down to one split-second decision. Roll the oversized dice, watch the totals, and the instant they hit 7 or show doubles, yank your string before the cupper slams the cup down on top of your cork. Too slow, you hit with points. Too early, also hit. Will you panic? Absolutely. It's easy to learn in under a minute, plays up to 7 players straight out of the box, and somehow gets louder and funnier every round. Perfect for families, parties, or anyone who thinks they've got quick reflexes under pressure. Cork by the OP Games, a proud sponsor of PlayCon.
So, Jules, you have been on an absolute tear playing this game that, look, it was almost like a darling of the show for a few of us last year. And, maybe we should see if we can get sponsored by Riot and we can talk about this game a little bit more. No, it's not the new. Cool. It's not the new Mechs versus Minions game that's coming out, but it is the TCG Riftbound.
Yeah, if I haven't said it before on the show, which I'm pretty sure I have a few months ago, I love this game. I go to locals at least once a week, if not twice, if I'm not working on a weekend, and competing in sort of the store level events. Just, I'm all in. And I think I've played or at least tried a lot of TCGs. I used to play a lot of Magic, still play occasionally, doing sealed events when a new set comes out or the odd Commander game here and there. I've tried One Piece. I've tried Dragon Ball. I've tried the new Cyberpunk TCG that will come out later this year. I've tried a bunch. And Riftbound is the one. I mean, obviously, I've loved Magic for a long time, but it kind of is a bit of a nostalgia thing for me. That is why it sticks around. But Riftbound to me, it just feels so different to all these other TCGs in just the way it plays and some of the core mechanics. And it feels like a board game to me because it's not just slap big creatures down and just bash the other person and hopefully come out on top. It's way more about holding the right tricks to, move your opponent off battlefields or capture another one and move across to capture the other. Like it feels way more strategic than just, trying to beat the crap out of each other, basically. And it feels, even though the game is still, I would say it's in its infancy, it's only 3 sets that have been released thus far. People are still developing new strategies with the card pool that's out there. And it probably needs another 2, maybe even 3 sets before it really develops some more meat, I guess, in the game, because they've had, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it's just been, I think, a natural consequence of there being a lack of material thus far compared to other TCGs, where some champions are just a lot stronger than others. And that, I feel like over time will sort itself out the more cards become available as sets progress onwards. But even in saying all of that, I have still had so much fun just building a deck, changing a champion, just trying new things at locals, and not necessarily playing the thing that's strong over and over again. It's just feels really different each champion you try.
So I would like your, thoughts on this, especially because it's based around a computer game, right? Like in a competitive computer game. So trading card games are meant to be played. When I say competitively, I don't mean that as in, you have to be in a tournament or you have to be that.
Yeah.
But it's, you are constantly competing against another person. Like, TCGs, you don't play against a bot or an Automa or a scenario. It's not like a Marvel Champions or an Arkham. You're playing against another player in person. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be people looking for an advantage. Always going to be people looking for make the most out of, get the most out of cards. What would happen in a video game, right, is they would be like, hey, look, this is completely broken. We're having some feedback issues. Yeah. We need to, and the words they use is nerfing. We need to nerf this hero or buff this other hero or buff the strategy or whatever. While not as quickly as you could probably do in a board game, I feel like this is something they could potentially do a lot quicker in a trading card game. Obviously, you need to be able to balance it and make sure that you're not overbalancing or overtuning it. Yeah. But you can then just release a set of cards, even if it's like a block in between a block or a set in between a set. It's like, hey, let's get this out there, and this helps counter that issue. But you're still beholden to, I guess, obtaining those cards. Is there much of like a market at the moment for the single cards, or are people proxying cards already? Like, what have you found so far?
No proxying, which is actually quite interesting. But I think that is because it's never been a better time to get into Riftbound than right now. So Origins was a bit of a rough start, and I heard a lot of people in the community that were keen to give it a go but couldn't get their hands on stock, and so they just gave up on it. That's not the case now. Supply is very, very strong. And as a result of that, the price of singles across the board, I would say, has probably halved. From when I was playing at the start of Origins set leading into the second one called Spirit Forged, there were some cards that were pretty staple. There was depending on what colors you're playing, you kind of needed them, and they were sitting around the $80, $90 per card, which is very, very expensive. That's a whole couple of board games you could buy for a single card.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like decks or booster packs of cards, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. But that same card I'm referencing is now $30. Now, it's still on the high end of cards available, but it's dropped significantly because there's just so much more product available. More people have cracked the card, natural supply and demand. And yeah, now is the best time ever. If you're looking to get into the game, you can go to a store, buy a pre-constructed deck, and then there's actually a lot of good singles vendors out there now, but just a healthy community of players buying, selling, trading cards at the moment, and because the supply has been so good. It's probably also been helped by the fact that we had a big regional qualifier event for the game in Sydney just the other month, where a lot more product was brought into the country for that, and there's been a good supply of Riftbound for everyone that wants to get into it. And it's been kind of cool as well, actually. There's been more people coming in to the local stores I go to saying, yeah, I've just got into the game in set 3, because there's so much more available. The price isn't crazy anymore. Which is really, really cool to see. That means they've got the right balance with the supply now, and that singles are very attainable. But the game is just very, very fun. I love the strategy. I love the amount of champions, and that will only increase. There's hundreds of champions in League of Legends that they can utilize for different decks and things like that. So yeah, it's I don't see myself ever stopping playing this, not for a very long time. It's just brilliant.
So having the video game background, I guess the video game theme to push it along, has a couple of advantages, right? So it's something that's familiar to a different group of people, or maybe the crossover of someone like yourself, so crossover of a League of Legends fan and a card game fan. It's also got the material it can draw from, so like a surplus of material you can draw from, whether that's different forms of a hero, just different heroes entirely. They can set it so different seasons will have different heroes releasing in themes. And then, of course, there's also the fact that, Riot is an incredibly successful company that's run, arguably one of the top 5 most successful video games of the last 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess what people would – and I think what stops people from jumping into some of these games is, hey, I've invested money and time, but I think money into this product. I'm worried that I'm going to do that, and all of a sudden all the support is going to be drawn out from under it. And then, and I know that doesn't stop people from playing what they've got, but it just means that they don't have anything anymore to look forward to.
Yeah,
I guess, and that's why I think I would generally recommend something like Marvel Champions, because I just cannot see Fantasy Flight, and again, different types of games, but I guess the overlap in the market of people who want to play card games and card games with strong theme is that they just have so much they can draw from. They can have, even if it's like, oh, this was not like the Wolverine from the Astonishing X-Men, this is now X Factor Wolverine, or this is Cyclops, this is Future Cyclops, or this is Ultimate Captain America, like all that type of stuff. Now that's not to say it's going to be as popular, but they still got material. So do you feel like the theme is carrying the game? Or could you, a better question is, could you see this game being played without the theme of League of Legends?
Oh, that's a great question. I think from my experience, there are definitely a lot of players I've come across that started getting into the game because of the theme. It has genuinely brought in new players. There weren't people that were playing one TCG and have just jumped across to another. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of those people, but I think the IP is doing a lot of heavy lifting and keeping people interested and engaged in the game. If it was themed completely differently, I think for me it would still be something I play, but they've done such a good job of integrating some of the mechanics to the theme of the characters in the game. It's hard to imagine a completely different theming being put on there. So yeah, I think it is kind of integral, but it's done really, really well.
Yeah, I think that's great, because there's nothing worse than getting a game and you're like, oh, I really like this theme, but it could be anything. It's just slapped on. I think Riot showed that they know how to make a board game, or go into this physical medium with Mechs versus Minions. Right, it was incredibly popular. Was people were wowed. The fact that it wasn't made by a board game company, it was made by Riot. It had lots of people helping out who have backgrounds or who are board game designers or developers, but it wasn't a board game company. They just did the smart thing. And I believe that's kind of what's happened here too. Like they had like effectively they've got a board game department inside of Riot.
So they've got UVS is the publisher of the game. So it's designed by Riot, but now they've got a company that essentially markets and promotes and runs the events and does this, and TCGs are their bread and butter. I think for me, going back to the theme being tied in, one of the cool things is, though, when we start to look ahead at other sets and they start to spoil the types of champions, people start theory crafting of like, oh, well, this is how the character works in the video game. I reckon they're going to make a mechanic that does this and this and this in the game. And people start to, theory craft, which is really, really fun. Look, if you have a love of the League of Legends IP, whether it be through the video game or through Arcane, and you love board games, I think there's a very strong chance you'll love this. And it is one of those difficult things which you were alluding to, was you might invest in getting some decks and some cards, but it is one of those TCGs where, look, if you just want to play it casually here and there, you probably just make a couple of decks and you just leave it at that and you play with a couple of friends. But there is definitely a whole nother level where you keep up with the sets, buy the new cards, tweak those decks, keep up with the current metas, and it is a lifestyle thing. It very much is. I'd be lying if I said it's not a part of my life right now. I go weekly to play.
That's so cool, right? Like, people will, and there'd be listeners who have been doing this with the, the card games that are people more familiar with, like Magic or Arcana.
Exactly.
The ones you talked about, like, One Piece and Dragon Ball aren't as popular, like in Australia.
Yep.
But there's people doing that, and that's like their weekly thing. It's a weekly get together, so that's pretty cool.
I know for some people it sounds like, oh man, like I've got to buy cards every quarter, to keep up. There are very affordable ways to stay in the Riftbound hobby. You can just play some champions that just utilize cheaper cards. I reckon one of the decks I've built, the total cost of it is maybe $15-$20 if I was to buy all the singles, because they're just not expensive cards, but it's a very, very strong deck. And then there are other decks that are probably just as competitive that can cost $250 worth of single cards. So it's expensive if you're going to buy packs and try and crack everything, but if you wanted to just look online, find a deck that works for you, there's TCG Arena, which is a website where you can just import deck lists and just play for free and just experiment with different decks. And you find one you like and go, cool, I'll go buy the singles for that deck. You can buy a whole deck for the price of a board game. And it just depends how you want to engage with it. And when you're done with it, sell the cards and make a new deck.
I wouldn't, I just wouldn't. I just okay, they're just going to stay in a cupboard in my Riftbound box alongside my Pokemon card box, alongside my Magic box, alongside my Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not you can go through them.
Exactly.
What we should do? We should do an episode of old trading card games that we've played, like the dead ones. That would be funny. I think that would be really funny.
Yeah. So look, I won't lie. I've got boxes and boxes of Riftbound cards, but I do sell them. I do move them on. I'm not precious about keeping it. I consciously stay clear of being a collector. I know if I wanted to do that, I would go very, very deep and want to complete master sets. And no, I can't do that. That becomes expensive if you want to do that. No, for me, it's all I'll buy a bunch of cards, make the decks I want. When I don't want to play them anymore, I'll sell those to then fund the next type of deck I want and keep things cycling that way.
Amazing.
Which is
what
great.
An amazing system you've got going there. Yeah. Cool. And of course, we'll touch on this maybe a little bit later, but Riftbound, if you're interested, you will be able to play it at PlayCon.
Yes, absolutely.
So
you can learn to play.
Looking forward to that. That's going to be great. I would strongly suggest if you're interested, and I've played it. It is a very straightforward TCG. Magic obviously is the king of it, and I, just like you, Jules, have a background in it. I wish when I said I've got a background in Magic, it actually meant that I did tricks. And like could pull a rabbit out of my hat. Like kerchiefs out of my sleeves. Endless handkerchiefs. But no, what I mean by background in Magic is I spent way too much money on Magic cards. And I thought, even if I wasn't super knowledgeable in trading cards and the systems behind trading cards, I think this system makes a lot of sense. So I hope for the sake it can live alongside of it, like Lorcana has with, and it does have a different group of people, a different demographic of people who would be interested in this over a Magic, over a Lorcana.
I think there has been a difference, honestly. Just, the amount of people I've said, oh, how'd you get into this? Like, oh, well, I played League of Legends. Oh, do you play any other TCGs? Like, no, this is my first one. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I love that. I love people like being bought over because of a shared interest or something like that.
Yeah.
So while Jules has been playing Riftbound, I've been playing Space Pokies. And so I wanted to talk about Spacebase. So I've been really lucky since I moved up to Sydney. I've been able to hang out with a couple of guys who I've met through our community, who I've become really good friends with. And one of the games we seem to bust out when we've got like an hour spare, when we've got maybe 45 minutes spare, is Spacebase. So I thought it'd be fair to sizzle Spacebase this week. If you're not familiar with Spacebase, think of it, like I said, as the space pokies, where you're waiting for your number to come up, right? So the way it works is everyone starts with a line of cards, so like a tableau of cards, and each of these cards represents any combination of numbers that can come up on 2 die, so from 2 to 12. And your aim is not to roll the dice, because everyone could do that, but your aim is to make the most out of your die rolls. Now, of course, we know mathematically 7 is the most common number to come up when you're going to sum the two values of the dice together. However, what's cool about Spacebase is that you can also use the two values independently as well. So what you're then doing is going, okay, 7's the most common value, or the most, the most likely number to come up when you sum them together. However, you could also have 2 and 5, you could have 3 and 4, you could have 6 and 1. And you might want to then build out those cards by purchasing them from the shop. And in the shop, you've got 3 levels of cards, each of them becoming more and more expensive. And of course, what they do is the powers that activate on your cards for the 7, the 6, the 8, even like the 5 and the 4, they're okay, but in order to get better ones, they're going to cost you more money. However, the powers that activate on the lower probability cards, for example, and I said 2, 1 is also an option as well, of course, because you can roll 2 ones that activates twice. So the probability of numbers like 2 and 12, those powers are exceptional because they're so less likely to occur. However, if they do hit, it's really, really great. Another cool part, and I think if you're going to play these types of games where you roll a die or you do something like draw a card, you have to have this going too, where you, on your turn, if you've made the right predictions, you can have particular cards activate on your opponent's rolls as well. And the way this happens is each card will have a blue section and a red section. And when you buy and replace a card on a particular number, let's say number 5, you will flip that card north to south and you'll slide it into your tableau. And what this means is that any time an opponent rolls that number or that digit, you can then activate that card and get a bonus from it. So that might be money. It could be increase your income per each turn. It could also be just to win victory points. So there's this whole thing of like, okay, I'm gonna go all in on 6, 7, 8. I'm gonna make sure that those numbers get rolled the most. However, a funny thing happened was I just for whatever reason I ended up with a little bit of leftover, a little bit of cash, and there was some number 9s there that were looking a bit juicy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to grab the number 9, and I started replacing it. And so early in the game, I ended up with this really strong value for 9, and I don't know why I did it. I think that just the cards there were appealing, or it came around twice, and the first card was appealing, and the second card for number 9 that I bought, I was like, no, this is better. So I just wanted to replace it. Everyone kept rolling 9s. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if it was 6 and 3 or if it was 4 and 5. Everyone kept rolling 9s, and they're like, this 9 has paid out for you so many times. It's just paid out like a crazy amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I ended up just squandering my excess cash away because the other cool thing about this is that you can generally only buy one card, but so in whatever you buy, your cash goes back down to 0 straight away.
Yeah, it always resets.
Yeah, yep. which is quite cool. So I mean, look, it's by John DeClaire, one of I guess he's quite good at these probability, these card buildery type games and building off of combos that you already have. I know that you've played this game, Jules, and again, I think it's a game that you do enjoy. What's been your experiences with Spacebase?
Oh, yeah, it's such a fun game. It's one that is really easy to teach new players. It looks overwhelming when you set up, having this massive long board and all these piles of cards everywhere. It's like, don't worry about it. Just roll the dice.
Yep.
Either use them individually or sum them together and just do the things on that column. Ignore everything else. And yeah, it's such a fun game. The last time I played this wasn't actually too long ago, maybe 2 months ago now, where I taught it to some people that, some friends of ours, and the card came up that had the instant win strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, right, I'm going to do this. Let's see if I can pull this off. And so I got that card. I got a bunch of other cards that, when you roll a number, you can move it one to the right or the left. So I got a few of those to push it up and up and up to try and trigger it multiple times. And I got so close. I had 1 cube left to get the instant win, but someone got to the points quicker, and then the round ended. But yeah, I love that it has that little shoot the moon type strategy in there if you feel like you're really far behind. But I don't know why. I feel like I'm very unlucky in playing the game. Even though I go for those middle, like 5 to 8 number range, they just never get rolled. Yep. I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to put some new dice in my copy.
Yeah, you throw them out. I think that's why I did go for that 9, because I felt like 9 is far enough away from the middle of that bell curve.
Yes,
that you can still get good value, but it's still likely to come up.
Yes,
you've got combinations that can come up, and they come up relatively frequently. So it's like, look, why don't I go for this? Why don't I chuck it in and see how it goes? And then when it was, I kid you not, there was multiple times where the 2 players before me rolled 9 like successively, like it was, and they were just like, what the heck? And I was like, so there's this other cool thing with the game. So the aim is to get the most points, but the game ends when someone gets to 60. So there's one way that you can push this quickly, and that's by purchasing these victory point cards.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is that when you buy this card, you obviously repeat the process of putting the previous card that you had there up north to south and then sticking it in the top to form your tableau. But if you roll that number again, you don't get any benefits. So, and the cards that have the lower the card, the less the victory point is, even though there's like less probability of it coming up. So even though like one might not be that valuable, you still might want to grab that one for the victory point because it's less likely to come up as opposed to like a 7, which has a little bit of which has some value, but 7s are likely to come up. So there's more chance of you rolling a 7 and you not getting the benefit of that. So I think that's an interesting. It sort of starts to signal the end because people are like, I'm going to start buying these cards, pushing up my victory points, then maybe I can push it up over 60. You play one more round from the starting player, so everyone has the same amount of turns. Mm-hmm. Then that's it. But yeah, I think look, I think both we don't condone gambling, and me calling it space pokies is definitely like a bit tongue in cheek. You know, what I do like is aside from you buying those victory point cards, is that whenever you roll a number, you're going to get a benefit somehow. So whether that's hitting a number and when you've summed the dice up, or you could get 2 individual ones. So for example, I had like my 5 had like 2 coins on it, but my 2 and my 3 both had a coin each, or might be like, or maybe it was like my 2 had a coin, my 3 had 2 coins, my 5 had 2 coins. So it's like, well, I'm going to take the 2 and the 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's
an extra coin. And you might go, 5, that's not very good. But it's like, but I had these other ones. So a cool strategy that Tom used is that while they weren't paying out a heap, all of his numbers from 1 to 6, he had slotted in some 1 or 2 cards. Yes. So therefore, while the payout wasn't going to be massive, it wasn't like the 7 coins I got for 9 hitting.
Yes.
I was like, he was getting something every turn. So whether that was a small amount of money, whether that was a small amount of victory points, he was getting it each turn. I was like, that tracks with Tom because he normally works out how to win these games. But yeah, whether that was the case, I thought it was quite cool. But yeah, I mean, look, John DeClaire, he just makes fun games, I think. He just makes really great games. He is, and this one here, I think and again, it can play to 5 or 6.
I think it goes to 5 in the base game, but there might be a way to make it more. Yeah. You could really play with, it's at least 5.
I think just based on length of game and it blowing out, right? Like, because if you have too many people rolling, then you're going to accumulate more and more on when it's not your turn. Therefore, it probably, I think, but it can definitely play to 5. I don't know if it can play to 6, but yeah. So two games, one a bit of a classic in that classic zone of Spacebase, and one game that's very popular at the moment. Looking forward to getting better in Riftbound, and we'll have a little break and come back for some news and announcements.
This episode is brought to you by Behold Games, Sydney's home for board games, role-playing games and trading card games. Whether you're hunting down that niche board game, deepening your collection, or just looking for a place where your obsession is completely normal, Behold Games has you covered. They stock a great range, run regular events and organise play, and have a community that genuinely shows up every week. If you're making the trip to Sydney for PlayCon, Behold Games is just a 12-minute walk from the ICC. So head on in Wednesday or Thursday evenings before the con kicks off, or take a break mid-convention to stretch your legs and check out the store. You'll find them at Shop 17, 99 Jones Street in Ultimo. Can't make it in person? You can shop their full range online at beholdgames.com.au. Shipping is Australia-wide. Head to beholdgames.com.au or come in and say hello in store.
So our one item to talk about today is, of course, PlayCon, the 3rd to the 5th of July at the ICC in Sydney. Tickets are, of course, still for sale. Absolute power of work is being put into this. We are in the final stages of people saying they can't wait to go. People still trying to get tickets. We're just confirming a couple of little secret things that we're going to be doing as well. I had someone ask about the puzzles. The puzzles will be back. So yes, Dan has, and he's come up with some absolute cracking ones. Of course, I'm not going to give everything away unless you want to pay ID me some money, then I will definitely give away the secrets. But yes, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be great. So much cool stuff. The After Game app, the event on After Game is live. There are literally, I'm not BSing you guys, there's hundreds of events. Absolutely hundreds of events that are available. Going to be even more with people putting their own up. Make sure you have downloaded the app, you signed up, and you followed the Board Game BBQ and PlayCon to see the full schedule. There are games with designers. There's games with us. There's games with people from the community that want to help run games. There's games of Giant Octocube. There's different learn to plays. There's a whole heap of things. There is the sealed magic that you can sign up for that's going to be fantastic. It's just so much cool stuff. Jules, what's something that you're looking forward to?
Oh, man. There is so many cool things. I think I'm looking forward to see some of the novelty sort of mega-sized games like the giant Lego Catan. You mentioned giant Octocube. There's giant versions of some classic games like Corridor. I think I'm looking forward to seeing these giant big group games being played. I love the pitchcast racetrack that gets set up. I love seeing all those big versions of games. They're super fun.
Yeah. And something else too that is back again is Conquest. So not named after me, named after PlayCon. And so that's going to be going again with prizes for the people who fill it out and get it entered by a specific time. All that information will be coming soon and be ready to go for the event. We have released a new wave of tickets as well. So there are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday tickets still available. So make sure that if you're looking for a Saturday ticket and the fast-selling Sunday tickets, make sure you get on. Otherwise, of course, there's 3-day passes available, which means you can come Friday after work. There's still 6 or 7 hours of gaming available to you, depending on what time you finish. So yeah, looking forward to that. Great way to roll into the school holidays. Come, bring your kids, wear them out over 3 days of board gaming. They won't annoy you for the rest of it.
Also, we've released a PlayCon miniature, which has been sculpted by an Australian artist, and that's something that's available to purchase on the website for $5. So you can take that to the paint and take if you want to, or you can take it home and paint it, either or. There'll be some copies available on site depending on how the pre-sales go. But yeah, if that's a little keepsake or piece of memorabilia you want for your first time, your second, or maybe your third time attending PlayCon, head to the website there and you can purchase your con exclusive miniature.
Yes, his name's Bruce, and he's incredible. And I'm so excited to be able to paint Bruce and use him. Well, if you were to put him into a Warhammer game, what would you proxy him as? A Chaos Demon?
Yeah, it could be a Chaos Demon. Yes,
I think so. I'm just trying to think, or maybe it could be like a beast that the orc in 40k have captured, trying to break out. That would be cool. I like to do that. And of course, you could use them in Dungeons and Dragons or another tabletop RPG.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be fantastic. The other thing that I'm looking forward to is the panels each morning with our guests, Cole Worley, Andrew Bosley, who will be having an interview with Ian O'Toole, Shem Phillips, and the Garfield crew, and of course, Kim Brayback, a local board game developer as well, with a good game. So looking forward to that. And yeah, going to be so good. I literally cannot wait. And please, if you don't follow us already, follow us on Instagram and on Facebook to get updates with the news. And you can also head to the website to grab tickets and any other, and the Bruce miniature as well.
If you're looking for a friendly, reliable place to pick up your next board game, check out Advent Games. They've been proudly serving families and gaming groups all across Australia since 2012, and it shows. With excellent communication and a huge range of the latest releases, pre-orders and classics, Advent Games makes it easy to find exactly what you're after. And they're passionate gamers too. So you're not just buying from a store, you're supporting people who love the hobby as much as you do. Advent are also proud sponsors of both the Board Game BBQ Podcast and of PlayCon, with the option to purchase your games online now and pick them up at the convention. You can browse their full range at adventgames.com.au. Advent Games, great service, delivered Australia-wide.
Okay, so due to a little bit of funky scheduling, we have recorded. You're getting to find out like a bit of how the sausage is made here, folks. The previous pod's questions have not come out yet, so we do apologize for that. What we'll do next time is we'll have a bit of a double up or double dip. So we'll look at the last week's question of the pod answer. So if you answered that, thank you so much. Your contributions we're very grateful for your contributions, and we'll do this week's questions as well. So looking forward to that. But Jules mentioned giant or novelty-sized versions of some board games. What we want to know is, which board games would you like to play novelty-sized and why? So I think a fun version, like a big giant version of El Grande would be hilarious. So imagine like getting these, like whether it's like you as a person going down a slide and being put in a location, or like hiding, putting like little like big versions of you know, like the Caballeros into oh my god, what's it called? The tower thing.
Castillo?
Yeah, Castillo. Yeah, that would be so fun. I think anything like that where it's just like it almost becomes inconvenient to play is hilarious. So yeah, my vote would be for El Grande. Also, like a giant version of Potion Explosion, where it's like I'm going to take this, and then all these sort of, you know, those. Do you know the bouncy balls I'm talking about that are like you would have played with them in the backyard? It's like that weird plasticky, like mix between plasticky and rubber, and it makes it like high pitched sound when you slap it. Yeah, those coming down, that would be funny. That would be really funny.
I'd love to see. I wish I'd thought of this earlier, because it wouldn't be hard to make. We do a live action game of Hot Streak. But actually in the costumes, and someone's calling out the deck, and they have to do the moves and actually push each other down.
Yeah.
That would be very fun.
Do you remember? So there's a show, because you're a similar vintage to me, Takeshi's Castle and Most Extreme Eliminations. Did you ever see that?
Yes, I do. Remember
that is exactly what that reminds me of. Is that something like that? Yeah, just something chaotic. There's that GIF of someone in a mascot suit, and there's like explosions going off behind them, and they're running. Yeah. That's what I'm reminded of too. It's like a really cute like mascot, and then it's obviously there's like squib explosions going off behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
I'm in on that.
Do that.
I'm in on that. Let's look at doing
just
that.
Hire 4 mascot costumes and do a live action.
Oh my god!
Version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one I thought would be really cool if there was a jumbo version would be Men at Work.
Yeah.
just have really big pieces that you have to put on top of each other.
Yeah, I think you're right. Dexterity just it becomes easier. Yes. Because if you're like, you know, fine motor skills aren't great like mine, it's like, oh, anything that's I can actually hold in place is easy and fantastic. Not that I'm any better at like giant Jenga than I'm at normal Jenga. I still make poor decisions. But yeah. So that's what we want to know. What game would you like to see giant or novelty sized, and why? And of course, it's not up to us, it's up to you guys in the community. And if you wish to join our community, there are a couple of ways. The most obvious way is to join our community on Facebook or on Instagram. You can follow us on Spotify or iTunes and leave a star rating, and then you can let your mates know that we have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of great games, and we run some absolutely incredible events. You can also, of course, follow us on Instagram, on X, and listen to our audio on YouTube. There's our Discord community where there's always great conversations going on. As we're recording this, it is Australia are just about to kick off their World Cup campaign. So the sports chat is going bananas. It's all World Cup fever. It's in the height of both footy seasons, State of Origins around the corner. We're talking about events because of PlayCon. The Kickstarter's always... I need to mute the Kickstarter conversation, Jules. I am not fiscally responsible enough to not have that muted, and it annoys me so much. Luckily, I have developed a bit of self-control, but not much.
Yeah, there are a few campaigns going on or launching soon that I am got my eye on, and I haven't backed anything for a little while, so I'm in danger.
I need that dopamine, the delayed dopamine hit.
Yes.
I'm going to back this, and then 18 months later it arrives.
That's it.
And it feels like a free game because you've paid it off. But yes, and of course, if you wish to, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue. Sign up to donate, get access to exclusive podcast episodes that we record just for you guys. We also run a whole heap of different events that are just for patrons, with the Patreon party coming up for PlayCon. So looking forward to that and catching up with some of our Patreon members. And of course, all the links for any of this information are in the show notes. All right, so we are coming to the end of the episode, but it wouldn't be right unless we talked about what's gotten us fired up. I've already talked about the midst of all three, or the footy codes that I've talked about. State of Origins around the corner. I've joined the rugby team. I feel like I'm like in Sports Central. But Jules, what specifically has got you fired up?
Well, the obvious one is PlayCon. We are just weeks away from the largest dedicated board gaming convention Australia's ever seen. So that's pretty exciting to me. And as we pointed out, there's literally hundreds. I think at the time of recording this, we're almost at 900 events that people can sign up to or participate in at PlayCon. That is absurd.
It's crazy. It's just going to be nuts. But like when I say that, it's going to be crazy in a good way. You know, it's going to be fun. There's going to be so many opportunities for people to join in and explore things that I haven't had a chance to. So yeah, really, really excited for it. And yeah, I sometimes I just go through the events and I'm like, if I was just a paying ticket member, I'd just be like filling my plate every day, but then saying, okay, guys, let's set aside some time for us to play some games together.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'm excited for is not too long ago had a review copy of a game called Stone Saga sent to us from Open Hour Studios. This is a big box cooperative survival game, and it looks awesome. So I'm very, very keen to crack that open soon and give it a go. I'm very, very thankful for all the games that Open Hour Studio has sent us. They've done Mythwind, and there was Storyfold.
Yeah.
These are games that have not been up my alley per se, but I have so much respect for the design and the workmanship that has gone into their games. They're some of the most beautifully produced games out there. And yeah, Stone Saga actually looks a little bit more up my alley. Yep. I've enjoyed, a lot of people know I enjoy Kingdom Death, which has that cooperative city building element. And I feel like Stone Saga's got a bit of that. But it's not battling against monsters. I think it's more survival.
Yep.
Just in general. So yeah, I am very keen to open it up. The box is massive. It weighs a ton. I'm keen to see what's inside of it.
It's good. And you can work on your biceps when you have to lift it up and put it down on the table. Yeah, very good. Get jacked before PlayCon. Love that. So you will have seen in the snip, in the little thumbnail, that I have got my hands on my own copy of Eternal Decks. So I'm very excited to get this to the table. I've heard lots about it. You've talked about it, Jules. Our good friend Def talked about it too while I was on the show. And our good friend Chris, he was playing multiple games of this at our last Sydney game day. So yeah, really excited for that. From a video game point of view, I've gone back to playing Path of Exile. So I played this at the end of last year. They've released a whole heap of new content, a whole heap of endgame content. I'm sort of like putting time aside each night when I can to like play for like an hour and a half or whatever, whatever it looks like. So yeah, just enjoying spending my little bit of free time that I've got doing that as a bit of time to myself. But yeah,
very
it's
cool.
been good as well as playing heaps of board games. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you, Jules, for joining me in the chat, and great to hear about your little venture. Because you were there with Kieran, weren't you, at the Museum of Contemporary Art?
Yeah. It was the two of us teaching a bunch of light games, which is great.
Yep, just what you need. And please, if you are looking to come to PlayCon, grab your tickets before they sell out. We'd be really excited to see you there. Pop in, say hello to us. That's why we run these events, is for you guys. And like Jules said, it's the biggest dedicated board game event in Australia. So, yeah. Did you say Southern Hemisphere? Let's do it. Until we get proved otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah. If you've gotten this far and you run a bigger event in the Southern Hemisphere, let us know. But as per usual, thanks for listening. Keep playing those games, and we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Love that.